We've done testing on Isitarian. This guy is actually really good now. They just balanced this hero. Before, he was the worst of the worst. Now he would be S tier if it wasn't for one fundamental thing with him, and I'll show you that in a minute. We're going to pit him up against Joyce. We're going to do a lot of testing to see the damage he can do against Joyce, because Joyce is a high single target damage dealer. If you look back on one of these sheets that I have underneath my YouTube videos, I've got all these different sheets here where you can see damage testing we did in season 1. Everybody with the same exact gear on with a 100% chance to crit. So they always did the same damage every time on the test dummy. And you can see Joyce here pulling off some really good numbers. Solo 500,000, but with somebody buffing the pets, because anytime Joyce's summons get buffs, Joyce also gets that buff. So here you can see it goes up to 755,000, which is a lot of damage and good AoE damage, as long as the monsters are close together, like touching each other. I'm going to compare everything with Isitarian new to Joyce and see what kind of damage we get. This is the team that I'm going to test right now against an Ice Blast team. I've got an Emperor set, and then we have an Aerial set with a Slingshot. We're using the Eyeball along with Witch's Remains. And then over here on the Ice Blast team, same exact gear. Instead of the Eyeball, we've got the Statue, but all the other gear is exactly the same. I want to see what kind of damage comparison we get with an unkillable team going to 150 stacks on the boss. Once the boss gets to 150 stacks, he's going to cleave both teams and kill them. So we get an idea of what summons damage can do versus something like Ice Blast, which is very, very strong on the Vortex boss. We're going to cheat a little bit and give Isitarian's attack lead to the whole entire team here. Ice Blast is not going to have anything. They're just going to have the resistance. Now, Isitarian and Joyce are a fantastic combination, because every summons that's out done by Joyce adds 20% additional damage to Isitarian. Isitarian's little chicken that's out right now, you know, the big undead chicken, that adds 20% additional damage to Isitarian's ultimate as well. So the more summons we can get, the better off it is for Isitarian's ultimate. Joyce, whenever we get buffs, like we just said a minute ago, all those buffs go over to Joyce, the actual summoner itself. So Isitarian's going to buff its chicken. It's going to buff one of Joyce's pets. Joyce is going to then get that buff. They work extremely well with each other to increase both of their damages. Now we've got the Ice Blast team. You can see that we're up to 150 stacks right now. The boss is going to cleave. Everybody's dead, and here are the two damage numbers. We had Witch's Remains on Zadok down at the bottom. He has 4.1 million. We had Witch's Remains on Bledin. He has 4.1 million. Actually, almost the same exact numbers. They do have the same exact gear on. Nord has the Slingshot with the Aerial set. He's only pulling in 9 million. And then over there, we have Joyce with the Slingshot on and the Aerial set. Now, the Emperor set is one of the best sets to have. You just stack up a whole bunch of attack percentage everywhere with flat attack, and you're going to do up to 50% additional damage. Very strong everywhere in this game, but for Joyce, Joyce only has itself doing damage with that, the 50% additional damage. So if we can increase Joyce's overall attack, that goes over to the summons, to where then the 3 additional summons are doing more damage together instead of just Joyce doing more damage with Emperor's set. That's why I put that on Joyce. I think that's why Joyce is doing more damage than Isitarian right now. And we're going to pit Joyce and Isitarian against each other with the same exact gear on against the target dummy, so we can see where Isitarian really goes against Joyce. But we do know from season 1 and from the document, Joyce is a very good single target damage dealer. Obviously, nobody can compete with Girthin. She's just too damn strong. And now we're going to a Chief Challenge. This is where you would expect to use something like a summons. Are summons good? They're fun in season 1. They look extremely strong when you first start playing them. They're actually really good. Isitarian's awesome on your brand new account because it gives you that attack lead that you can use anywhere. Here we're gonna skip to the end of this fight and look at our chicken. Look at Isitarian's undead chicken. That chicken always does damage that counts toward Isitarian's total damage. And with that chicken out, every time Isitarian does his ultimate, he gets 20% additional damage for any summon on the field. But when this chicken dies, sorry, I keep calling it a chicken. It is, right? It's an undead chicken. When that little fowl dies, his damage is going to drop. So right now we can see that he was around 26%, almost 27% overall damage. Now the chicken drops, the fight keeps proceeding on, and you just see his damage start to go down. Because now he does less damage on his ultimate. The pet isn't there doing its basic attack as well. And the pet does additional damage when he does his battle skill. Every time Isitarian does the battle skill, the pet basically doubles the damage. It's just going to keep dropping. We were at 27%. Now we're going down to 24%, 23%, 22%. This is the issue. This is the issue that we've talked to the devs about since beta. I don't know why they buffed Isitarian this way and didn't make it to where he resummons his pet when he does his ultimate. You could just have some wording in there that says, if his summons is dead, the ultimate resummons the pet. Or it could continue to resummon it and then it would have to run forward a little bit. That's fine too. But being able to bring it back out is the only way to make summons. Liliwanis is an exclusive summons. She's a summons that's very hard to get. She's amazingly strong. She sacrifices all summons on the board and does a lot of additional damage. She'll sacrifice everybody on the board. And then what's going to happen to Isitarian? Well, his 27% damage that he had earlier is now dropped down to 22%, and it's going to continue to go down to 21%. Well, it went back up to 22% there. Isitarian is fun to play when you first start playing season 1, but when you get to hard content, when you start to get to mid game and things start to pick up, that chicken's going to die and he's going to be terrible. So you don't want to invest too much into him. You don't even have to scroll him if you're going to play him in the early game, and then later on, you're just going to get rid of him. You're not going to bring him into Grave of Venom. He's going to die. You're not going to bring him into all these other places, Fae or Pillars or something like that. The chicken's going to die, and his damage is going to drop. They did an amazing update for him. They really buffed him great, but they just didn't make it a way that we could resummon him. Now we're going to do a side-by-side comparison. We already know how good Joyce is from the ranking document that I showed you earlier. Isitarian is going to do more damage than Joyce. We're going to put the same exact gear on, 100% chance to crit, run it for 5 minutes, and we're going to look at both of their damage. We're even going to make sure that they're both in the same location, so when we run it again, we're going to switch their positioning. So they're both same position. We're doing it on 3 target dummies, but both of these heroes only hit 2 because they do a center shot on the one that they're focusing, and then they only hit something immediately around it. So the chicken's doing a little bit of AoE damage. Whenever they both do their battle skills, they're doing a little AoE damage onto that back target dummy. So it's very fair. And they're both increasing each other's damage. You can see the buffs there going to Joyce. You can see all these additional summons out that are increasing Isitarian's damage. You can see 10 million more. Don't pay any attention to the 88% or the 54%. A lot of times the other hero was almost naked when we ran it through. We just needed to make sure each hero had the same exact gear on, 100% chance to crit, which they both did. Also, Isitarian has 18% chance to crit base. That's a lot more than a lot of epics out there. Most epics have 10%. So he's got a few things going for him. He's doing 10 million more. That's pretty damn good. And there's no limit to the damage he can do. So in future updates, if we get more summons, or if you have a hero that can bring an enormous amount of summons on the board, then Isitarian can do even more damage. So that gives me hope for him later down the line. Unfortunately though, his chicken won't be added to that because his chicken will be dead. If you bring it into something like Vortex, you bring it into any of the dungeons, if you bring that chicken into Fae, Pillars, anywhere where content gets hard, I'm telling you right now, that chicken is dead. So don't count on this guy for late game. Early game seems like a lot of fun. Late game, I guess if you can fill the board with summons. If you can do that, let me know what heroes you're using to fill up the board and get this guy's ultimate up to crazy numbers. Maybe that could be really good on the Vortex. Maybe this could be amazing on the Chief Challenges. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Let me know your thoughts on Isitarian down below. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you all in a video soon.